Welcome back to Press here. My next guest is a talented football player who wants to try his hand at tech. Michal Lev-Ram is a two-time All-American linebacker. At Duke his freshman year, he led the nation in tackles, played with the Indianapolis Colts as well. And then he taught himself to code, attended a 9-week entrepreneurship course at Tim Draper's Draper University, and launched his own fantasy football company. Brown told Forbes he hopes to capture 5% of the $28.5 billion fantasy sports market. I'll do the math for you. That's $142 million. Not a pretty good chunk of change there. Yet a lot of pro athletes have come into Silicon Valley looking. What have you discovered about coming into Silicon Valley that you might give advice to other athletes behind you?
Oh, well, first of all, one of the biggest things that I realized very early on was that there's a lot of transferable skills that we naturally built up over our playing careers that one wouldn't see as obvious, right? But things like dealing with adversity, perseverance, dealing with uncertainty, effective communication. These are all things that we've been doing since we were younger. And once you go into college and in the pros, you just continue to refine those skill sets. And so when I came to the Valley, I quickly realized that I'm in a position where I'm leveraging all of the same types of tools that I did to play at a high level. And for me, that's very fortunate because I think it allows me to do some things that I guess others, may have a harder time. So I always tell athletes, about those transferable skills, and being able to, encourage them has been fun.
Why was this something that you wanted to do? Was there a particular company or sports figure that inspired you?
So the story goes, I actually knew nothing about tech, Silicon Valley, anything until 2013. And I was actually public policy coming out of Duke, took the LSAT, was thinking law. As I was playing, got more interested in business. We had a lot of business ideas, guys were kicking around. So now I got more interested in business. But all I knew was, okay, you go get your MBA, take out a small business loan, start a company. And I was actually doing that. I took the GMAT, I was headed to Rice. I'm from Houston. And as fate would have it, a friend of mine who was a computer science major at Duke, played football, was playing for the Giants at the time, building apps. Very bizarre. He was the only person I knew that was kind of connected to the space. So we kicked a lot of ideas around. He said, hey, Mike, I know you mentioned going to Rice, but I just heard about this new program. It's in the Bay Area. Sounds kind of cool. I don't know much about it. You should check it out. I had no intention of checking it out. He sent me the link and clicked on it, popped up, and it was Draper University, run by Tim Draper from DFJ, and it was for aspiring entrepreneurs. And I said, wow, this sounds kind of cool. I've been hearing about this whole tech thing. I said, let me take a shot. So I actually applied after the deadline. Wasn't sure if I was going to actually make it happen. And Tim called me himself and said, hey, I love your background. He was like, we want to have you here, gave me a full scholarship. And that was the moment where I kind of took a leap of faith and came out here for a 9-week program, finished #1 in the batch, and I had made a decision at that point. I'm moving here, and this is what I'm going to do.
So explain win-win, because my understanding is that the way that you guys get around some of the legal hurdles is it's proceeds or profits mostly given to a charity of an athlete's choice, and then you guys make some money from it as well, of course. Exactly.
So the first clarification I must make is that it's not fantasy. It's not just fantasy. Mm-hmm. So the kind of the evolution. So we did in 9 months what most startups kind of do in a couple years. We raised our first round, built the product, built the team, launched on time in September, and we initially went in as the fantasy model. So essentially we work directly with athletes. The athletes host the fantasy tournament for that week, promoted to their millions of fans and followers. You would join in by paying an entry fee the same way you would on other platforms.
And this is the old model, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm up against a hard clock, so give me the new model.
Yeah.
Sell this to me.
So the new model is essentially the same thing, right? Because really what we built is a marketplace that leverages gamification to connect the fan with the athlete and make the world a better place. The gamification we've now expanded because we quickly realized that the bigger demographic that we're going out, general sports fans, not necessarily fantasy players, they love the fact that the experiences, the money goes to charity, but it's like, I don't play fantasy. So we very quickly realized that we needed to expand the model to include other types of games. So now we created our own games called Simple Fantasy, Over Under, Pick'em. So now you can simply go onto the app, join a tournament and make picks,
And
you
the-
earn points for your accuracy.
The money I give you then goes to the athlete's charity?
Right.
Okay,
So,
and
yeah.
then my prize is not money either. It's an
Right.
experience
That
with
money can't buy.
that athlete. Right, yes.
Right.
Something like standing on the sidelines of an NFL game or something.
Right. Or, we did one with Patrick Peterson from the Cardinals, and the top 3 winners flew on a private jet with him from Arizona to Baton Rouge for the LSU-Alabama game.
That's
and
very
they paid
cool.
$21 in a donation.
Mike, I've only got about a minute left. Let me ask you, when you are advising future athletes who are watching this and thinking, I want to do this, because so many athletes have tried to do this, what's the piece of advice you'd give them about Silicon Valley?
I'd say be confident in yourself. A lot of guys, they actually don't realize that they can do it. And one thing I preach a lot to a lot of players is, like, you can do it. And if you believe yourself, like, go after it the same way you do in the weight room, the same way you do on the field, and you'll quickly realize you belong here.
That's good advice indeed. And help me with your last name, Mike Te'ili from your aunt, right?
From my great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather.
Ta'ili,
which means what?
Well, it's just a family name, so there's no translation. My great-grandfather was the high chief in Samoa, and my mom moved from Samoa when she was 19 after losing, unfortunately, her mother and her father, and had me a few years later, and it's something that I'm very proud of.
Mike, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Press here will be back in just a moment.